The Fire Within the Storm. A story inspired by the life lessons of Marcus Aurelius. I, Cassius, the soldier with scars. Cassius returned not to celebration but to silence. His armor was rusted, his sword chipped, but it was his mind that bore the deepest wounds. He had fought in the northern campaigns for 6 winters, watched brothers fall in mud and fire, and buried his youth beneath banners and blood. The city was no longer home. It was foreign, too peaceful, too loud in the wrong ways. He walked the streets like a ghost until he stumbled into a quiet courtyard where an old stone bench held a copy of Meditations, half soaked in rain. He sat and read. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He read it again. And again. That night, for the first time in years, Cassius did not drink to forget. Instead, he sat in silence, watching the flame of a single candle. He began to treat his thoughts like weapons, sharpened, examined, and put away. Each day, a battle. Each emotion, a discipline. People saw the soldier and assumed he still carried violence. But slowly, Cassius became something else. A man who no longer needed a sword to show strength. 2. Livia, the orphan with ambition. Livia grew up barefoot in the alleys of the merchant district. Her mother died of fever. Her father disappeared into the mines. She learned to trade, to lie, to survive. By 17, she had built a small empire. 4 stalls, 3 warehouses, and 2 silver rings she never removed. But at night she feared. She feared losing it all. Every coin was weighed not by value but by the anxiety of watching it slip away. One evening, during a storm, she ducked under a bookstore awning. A small leather-bound volume caught her eye. Inside it read, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." That line hit harder than any loss she had known. For all her success, she had never really lived, only defended. Livia sold half her business within a month. With the money, she opened a school in the slums, where children like her once slept in crates. She taught letters, trade, and the Stoic words that had saved her from herself. Wealth still came, but now it was purpose that counted. And loss? It no longer frightened her. Because now Livia lived. 3. Delos, the philosopher who couldn't let go. Delos was once revered. His lectures drew senators, scholars, even generals. But when his wife, Eliana, died of a sudden illness, everything collapsed. He burned his notes. He cursed the gods. His lectures turned bitter, and the university doors quietly closed behind him. For 3 years, he wandered the edges of the city, aging without wisdom, teaching no one, answering nothing. One afternoon, while cleaning his late wife's belongings, he found a passage she had bookmarked. "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." He stared at the words, unmoved. But days passed, and they returned, at first like echoes, then like a drumbeat. He began to write again, not to teach, but to feel. His grief poured onto parchment not as philosophy, but as a human truth. Slowly, he resumed lectures in the garden behind his home. There were no crowds now, just a few quiet listeners, drawn not by grandeur, but by honesty. And Delos, once broken by loss, found in change not comfort, but clarity. 4. Naira, the servant who watched the stars. Naira had been born to servitude. Her hands carried others' burdens. Her voice was rarely heard. Yet inside her was a world no one saw, a cosmos of curiosity and strength. By candlelight, she read secretly from scrolls left behind by guests. One day, she found a passage that changed her. "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." From that night, she painted her inner world with light. Her body obeyed orders, but her mind roamed far beyond the walls. She mapped stars on scraps of parchment, and wrote verses between tasks. She studied Stoicism in whispers. Years passed. Her master, a nobleman with a sickly son, once overheard her explaining the constellations. Shocked by her knowledge and serenity, he began to speak with her regularly. Over time, his respect grew. Eventually, he gave her freedom, not as a reward, but as recognition. Naira didn't leave with vengeance. She bowed, thanked him, and walked into the world free in spirit, as she had always been in thought. Epilogue: the meeting. One spring evening, the four paths crossed. In the city square, where old stones remembered older kings, Cassius taught youth how to breathe through fear. Livia funded a public forum for women to speak freely. Delos returned to debate, not to win, but to wonder. And Naira held night classes under the stars for anyone willing to learn. They did not call themselves Stoics. They didn't need to. Their lives were the proof. Each had faced suffering. Each had chosen discipline over despair. Each had ruled the only empire they truly could, their inner world.